I'm Bush, and I'll be moderating today's conversation, and I'll just give you a little background about myself. I'm a native of Williamsport and have spent the last 12 years or so living abroad, working as a university professor, first at Temple University in Japan, and then at Arkansas State University in Mexico, where I taught literature, creative writing, and humanities courses. Recently, I moved back to Williamsport to resettle in the US, and I'm currently at the James V. Brown Library, so I just walked over here after work today. Today I have the great pleasure of moderating a conversation with somebody I consider not only a great writer, but also a great friend, Matt Parrish, or his pen name, K. Ube Dunn. Born and raised in suburban New Jersey, Matt moved to Williamsport to study literature at Lycoming College. He completed a Master's of Fine Arts degree in painting and moved back to the area to work as a newspaper editor at the Sun Gazette, where he edited the On the Arts section. Since leaving the paper, he turned his investigative energy to the field of healthcare. He's worked as a certified nurse aide in dementia care, and his work greatly informs his writing, which we'll hear about tonight when we hear a few of his stories inspired by his nursing work. His patient profiles and stories have been featured in the North Virginia Review, the Pettigrew Review, and most recently the Gramercy Review, which published his story Tossing Chairs, which I believe is the title of tonight's event, and we'll be hearing that in a little bit. Matt is also an artist and is fluent in the German language. As you can see, he's a person of many interests, and I think it's fair to say that all of his pursuits, both professional and personal, inform his work as a writer, which I hope we'll have a chance to talk about this afternoon. So we'll start by having Matt read a few of his stories, and then we'll have a conversation, the two of us, and finally I'll open it up for questions for all of you. With that being said, please join me in welcoming K. Ube Dunn, Matt Parrish, with a round of applause.
Thanks everyone for coming tonight, and thanks Otters for having us. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Danielle. That was wonderful. It was a really good story. I was really into it. I mean, guns and spiders and love. I mean, wow.
What else do you need?
I was kind of blown away. So, yeah, people say that when a writer is going to make work, that they should have something to say. And you know, I've been writing for years. I've probably written like 100 stories about the nursing home. And leading up to this event, I was like, you know, what do I have to say? But I kept returning to that elderly people with dementia have value. And it doesn't feel like something that needs to be said, but it definitely needs to be said. And that spending time with them is really rewarding. And that even if they don't remember you or know exactly who you are, if you know, with day to day, if you put in the hours, the familiarity with you will create a special type of memory. Like, they don't know who I am, but when they see me coming, they like smile because they know I'm going to say something dumb, for one, you know. But there's just like a comfort there, that there's someone there that they know, like, that they feel like they know, even if they don't know the details. So I guess Salman Rushdie said that writing is the closest we can come to like saving the past, or you know, saving your loved ones, or things that are, you know, the sand is falling through your fingers in time. And this is like the closest thing we can get. So I think, you know, why do I write these stories? Like, I've taken care of, I don't know, 1,000 people, probably more. And it's like, if I can save any piece of them, like, I can't save them. But if I feel like through these stories that I can at least like tell of their struggle or something, that I can kind of save them in my own way. So I'll start with Tossing Chairs. Yeah, as Brian said, this was published in the Gramercy Review, a literary journal based out of Manhattan. Patience requires memory. They cannot remember and they cannot wait. Their husbands and wives and children wait for them in the houses that were sold years ago. The sun is set. It's getting late. They need to leave. They have unconsciously decided that I'm in charge. I am the one who holds the key. the one who can open the door and send them back to the 1970s. Hey, what's your name again? Can you give me a ride to Muncie? Paula says. Hey Jim, pull your car around and let's get the hell out of here, Carolyn says. Hey Tom, I'm not staying here for the night, am I? Janet says. Hey Rich, can I start carrying my stuff out to the car? Jerry says. Jerry has all his clothes packed in plastic bags. He thinks he works in the memory care unit with me and his shift is over. Why the hell won't I let him go home? Come on, Rich. I've worked 2 shifts in a row. My wife's in the car waiting for me. She is right out in the parking lot. There is no wife. There is no car. He calls her phone. The voicemail has been disconnected. This phone service sucks. The only thing I can do is delay. Delay until he forgets. Why tell him his wife is dead? No one. No one would want to wake up to that news, that fresh wound, day after day. Tell him instead she's home now and she'll come get him in the morning. Well, why didn't she tell me? She was in a hurry. I'm sorry. The deceptions are thin. They don't last long and they don't always work. Lies. Lies, you're telling me lies. Every day with this bullshit and I'm sick of it. I think I'm gonna quit. What's to stop me from walking out that door right now? It's locked. No. Me. I'm to stop you. It's part of my job as your certified nurse aide. I guess I'm a CO of sorts, a corrections officer for those who committed no crime. Their brains betrayed them, deleting data randomly. Memories lost like dreams. You cannot leave, Jerry. He picks up a chair and throws it across the dining room. Then he stares at me and flips the table. This, a memory care unit for confused little old ladies, is not the place for him. We are not trained for this. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's more with it, he's dangerous. I'm gonna keep doing this until I can leave, he says. I'll hurt people if I have to. He chucks another chair and it crashes under the television playing a Hallmark Christmas movie. The nurse calls the supervisor, says to call 911. Then she tells me to clear the area of residents and keep them away. They're too oblivious for fight or flight. They'll head straight into the fire. Marie goes by with her eyes closed like she's taking a rolling nap. I grab her wheelchair and push her away. What are you doing, she says. No sooner do I have her safe than Dorothy walks right into danger. Dot, you can't go into the dining room right now. And why not, Kay? Is it a restricted area? Can you for once not give me crap and just do what I need you to do? Fine, Kay, whatever you say. I'll take the sarcasm as long as she listens, and she does. But no matter how many times I remove a resident, another one comes back. They move and they forget. They move and they forget. Attention requires memory. While I'm busy, Jerry has run out of stuff to chuck, so he starts throwing chairs he's thrown before. I try to imagine what it's like to be him. You wake up. You don't know where you are or how you got there. You look around and see some of your things, yesterday's jeans, your shoes, a TV, but you don't recognize the room. You look over and see a second bed, feet behind the curtain. Is this a hospital? You don't even remember being sick. You go to take a piss. Whoa, a bit unsteady on your feet. Must have had one too many. The first thing you want to do is call someone. Call someone to come get you because you do not belong here. But your phone isn't working. It turns on, but you can't get any service. You leave the room and see a man in scrubs. He looks familiar. It's Rich, your boss from work. That's right, you work the overnight shift and must have dozed off a bit. Hey Rich, you tell him you don't feel well and it's time to go home. As he starts in with the excuses, you get deja vu. Sorry, Jerry, I can't afford to lose you right now. We need you to stay here for another night. You've heard all this before. He's giving you the same bullshit, the same reasons he gave you yesterday. You've tried to reason with him. You've tried to explain how tired you are, how overworked, how you haven't seen your wife in days, how you desperately need to hit the road, and he just won't listen. Dementia, agitation, violence. Jerry's tossing chairs. It's his first night back from the psych ward in Pittsburgh. He was supposed to be better. The doctor and director of nursing try to talk him down. I'll punch you and her too if I have to, he says. I'm not stopping until I'm out that goddamn door. The overt aggression isn't a shock, as it's been there the whole time in his eyes. Police finally arrive. 7! I've never seen so many policemen answer a call to nursing home. After a few bluffs, Jerry realizes he's surrounded and gives in. He climbs onto the stretcher himself, and they strap him down and push him out. The episode ends with all the savagery of a catnap. Nobody got hurt. He didn't want to injure anyone. It was a show of frustration, and who can blame him? I thought they'd keep him at the hospital for observation to experiment with different medications, but no. The next day when I come in, Hey Rich, the sun is set. It's getting late. He needs to leave. There's no violence this time, however, because he believes. He believes he'll go home in the morning. The next one I'm going to read is called An Argument for an Artist. And I was saying that, like, I'm making an argument here that it's worth spending your time with elderly dementia residents. And this, I felt like, okay, I have like so many works to choose from. It was so hard to pick. But this one is literally an argument for her value. And so that's why I picked this one. S-U-G-A-R, sugar, Vivian said. Ain't that something? She dumped the packets onto the table. Tiny crystals spilled out everywhere, and she made some markings, 3 lines and a cross. Sugar, sugar, sugar. She pushed one packet around. It was like her finger was riding a sled. She pressed it up and to the left. Then she took another and placed it side by side. Nice, nice, very nice. A third, a fourth. 1 row, then 2 and 3 and 4. Now it was a grid of sugar packets on the dining room table in the nursing home. She was Hispanic, bald like me, and thin, wearing blue and white striped pajamas. She was in her 80s and had dementia. Sometimes she opened a packet or two and poured all the sugar in her mouth. She loved sweets. She had diabetes. Most of the time, however, she treated them like playing cards, engaged in a game of which only she knew the rules. As her certified nurse aide, I was supposed to stop her, but I never did. I'd let her go, in part just because I wanted to see what she would create, what she would make next. She created 1 long row at the edge of the table, a line of rectangles. White, pink, white, a Q, a train. S-W-E-E-T, she said, sweet. Now she looked at me. Now what do you think about that? Nice, very nice, I said. I imagined gluing her sugar packet works onto pieces of paper, framing them, and having a show, but I wasn't sure if they would translate. Out of the context of the dining room, outside of the nursing home, would they mean anything? I thought of Felix Gonzalez Torres's pile of candy in the corner of an art gallery. The weight of the multicolored, individually wrapped hard candies, 175 pounds, was the exact weight of his dead lover, Ross. Each visitor could take a piece. What first appeared to people as something so random, so easy, so artless, became significant with just a sentence. Some information, some context, sweets, sweetness. A pile of candy, a line, a grid of sugar packets, not the weight but the case, the situation being the thing, an arrangement by a woman in her 80s with dementia. Everybody is a genius of their own life, someone said. With her circumstances, with her loss of mental ability, is this not art? But then again, I know enough to know that asking the question, what is art, is a fool's game. It is art if anyone says it is, and I do. Her medium of choice, sugar, was both the substance she loved and the one that would kill her. 1 more glass of chocolate milk, 1 ice cream too many. Her blood sugar going too high wouldn't be the problem though, as we always had more insulin to give. Her number going too low, ironically, was what would do her in. Anything below 50 left her comatose. She formed a circle with the sugar packets. S-U-G-A-R, sugar, she said. A circle was interesting because the rectangular form of the objects didn't lend themselves to the shape. The hard lines and corners suggested a row or a grid, but not a circle. To me, the shape called to mind a ball or a portal. Isn't that nice? Very nice, she said. Vivian didn't understand the purpose of most things anymore. If you gave her socks, she put them on her hands. If you gave her a fork, she scratched her arm. If you gave her a magazine, she ripped it apart. The first day I met her, she handed me an adult diaper. It felt heavy. I cringed. Oh my God, what is in this? I thought. I didn't have any gloves on. I opened it up to find a turkey sandwich. Now what do you think about that? She said. That's right. Yes, it is, answering herself. Left to her own devices, she put on outfit after outfit, layering herself like a Matryoshka doll. On top, there might be her purple sweater with fake diamonds. Underneath, her pea green t-shirt and jeans. Underneath that, matching Christmas pajamas. Giving her a shower was always an ordeal because you never knew how many layers you'd have to peel back to get to her bare skin. We ended up with 3 days of laundry after 1 cleaning. She fought like hell. It usually took 3 people to get the job done, 2 to hold, 1 to wash. She didn't know what water was. What the hell is that? She says as it hits her skin. I don't want none of that stuff. Some nights, good ones, she would go from room to room stealing things. I saw her walking down the hall with a box of gloves, a bundle of bananas, and a rose in her mouth. If nobody intervened, she probably would have gone back to her room and organized them all in her bed. When I tried to take them away, she hit me with the bananas. I couldn't help but laugh. I'd never been attacked with fruit before. Another time she came out wearing a straw hat with flowers on it. She looked like a lady ready to waste away the afternoon lounging by a pool. All these things show she had the spirit of an artist, but her greatest work to me was still the sugar packet arrangements. She took the white ones and spread them around, humming as she did it. She pushed a few here, a few there, then she took one and placed it at the top left, working her way down diagonally to the bottom right. She took another and put it at the top right, working her way down diagonally to the bottom left. She had made a big X. Another nurse aide came along and said, "Vivian, what are you doing? Quit playing around." The aide gathered the packets and put them back in the ceramic holder. "There's sugar everywhere," she said. "She made a mess." X. X, Vivian said. Then the aide turned to me. "And look at you, standing there watching her do it." "Yep," I said, and made no apologies. X. X. All right, I'll do one more and then we can do the conversation. Now this one, that one is an argument for the patients, and this one is kind of my frustration with the job. We all get frustrated. And so this is, I mean, in a way it's me acknowledging myself as one of them. So here, this story was inspired by a passage from J.M. Coetzee's Waiting for the Barbarians. So I'll begin with that, a brief part of that passage. Then in mid-afternoon, the key scrapes the lock and the door opens. "What do you want?" says my warder. "Why have you been banging the door? How he must detest me, to spend days of one's life keeping watch on a closed door and attending to the animal needs of another man. He has been robbed of his freedom too, and thinks of me as the robber." Locked in. 19375, 91735. The first one was the first code, the second the second. As you can see, the second one is the first one reversed. Almost. It's the code to get out of the memory care unit. Shh, don't say it too loud. I mean, they probably won't hear. They probably won't understand. And even if they do, they probably won't remember. But some of them can. Some of them might. A few have before. James got it once. He studied people coming and going and hit them all just right. 19375. Usually they just mash buttons, which is problematic because you only get 3 tries. 3 tries to get the code right until you're locked out for a minute that feels like 10. It's a painful 10 when you're ready to go to break, ready to go home, ready to be anywhere but there. It can be an awkward 10 too, when you're the person who's supposed to know, and now the visitors are stuck with me because of me. But here's the thing, I work on the unit 4 days a week. I obviously know the freaking code. Sometimes, however, it doesn't matter if you punch all the numbers in right, it still might not work. So even if you know 91735, you might still be stuck with the wild residents who might drive you nuts. The key to properly punch in the key is to push hard. For some reason, the lock respects you more if you press firmly. Show it you know what you want, mean what you say. It shouldn't be this way, really. Maintenance should just fix the damn thing. But of course, they have fixed it. This is it, fixed. Before, at 11:05 p.m., when I was dreaming of chips, hot tea, my comfy couch, kitties, naked and afraid, my bed, I could be trapped for 15 minutes before the code worked. It made me feel something, made me feel like them, like my poor patients for whom life is being locked in. Nobody wants to think about it. Nobody wants to think about the nursing home. Nobody wants to think about dementia. Nobody wants to think about being confined in a memory care unit within a long-term care facility. Confined in a mind you want to leave, on a unit you want to escape, in a building you wish to flee. It's like 3 layers of hell caked together. I have to be careful how much I talk about it. Sure, they're trapped. I'm trapped. Well, most days I don't have to seal everyone else in all the time. Leave room for the sun to shine, for the kitten to purr, the lightning bugs to flash, the monarchs to land on the milkweed. There is light, so much light if we look, if we allow. But here I am not locked in. Here I am completely free, writing about 19375, 91735, pressing firmly again, being stuck. not stuck physically. I am home right now. It is sunny out. The kitten is purring on my lap. I am leisurely typing on my laptop. But what am I doing? I'm daydreaming about the jail, sketching the prison door, peopling its halls, peeling the paper off the walls, envisioning the fickin' lock like it's some holy chalice. It does shine, a fact that only mocks when it's broken and you're staring and waiting and waiting and staring, checking the time, looking around, sighing, pacing, hoping for the light again. Is it red? Is it green? Did it go dark? Red means wrong, green means right, dark means dead. I hate the lock, but I'm not like the warder. I don't hate the residents. I, God forbid, don't abuse them. I don't begrudge them anything. I like my job. I love my patients like family, friends, but I acknowledge the mirror. I recognize the pattern, the bars. I repeat the same phrases, sing the same songs. And when I'm standing in the creek, watching the dragonfly float on a leaf, it comes to me. I'm locked in. Thank you, everybody.
All right, well, thank you, Matt, for that wonderful reading. You started out by saying people with dementia have value, and that's kind of what you wanted to bring home in your stories, and I think you can feel that just because of the attention that you pay to these patients and their lives. You've been writing for a long time. Was there a moment when the stories of your patients started to feel like something that you wanted to write down?
Yeah, it was born in a struggle. There was a patient that he required 24-hour supervision, or he would throw himself on the floor. So someone had to be with him at all times. And usually within the hour, the nurse aide would call for someone. Help, I can't deal with him anymore. We need somebody else to do this. And so I saw it as a challenge for myself, and I learned about him, and he had been an engineer. And so I thought, oh, this is great. I gave him a paper and a pencil, and he started writing numbers, and he could do math problems still, despite the decline in his faculties. And I would find different games for us to play. Like I found a beach ball, and even though he didn't know where he was or what was going on, he could recognize the potential in the beach ball to play a game. And so there we were sitting there, suddenly like nobody else could like tolerate this, and here we were just like doing math problems and playing with the ball. And so I thought like documenting what worked, what didn't work. I started to write down like the process of like dealing with this, and that's when Daniel, You Are Above Ground, I wrote that one, and that one was published in Kestrel in 2019. And they actually invited me to West Virginia to talk at the university where the publication is put out. So I taught the students, and so that really started the whole ball rolling with everything.
Great. What's your process like when you sit down to write a story? Do you start with a phrase that's in your head, an image? Do you bring a notebook to work?
No, I don't. I start with the person. Like if there's somebody that I've had a strong connection with, or I think of how can I write the John story, or something like that, and then I just go in, and sometimes I'll have really strong connections with patients, and the story just doesn't work. Art is whatever works, right? And sometimes they just don't work. But then once I get the flow going, you know what it is? If I get a good sentence, then I'm like, I have to save this story no matter what. And it's like, I can't just abandon that sentence. So then I have to, no matter what happens, I have to finish that story.
Can you talk a little bit about the form that your stories take? Because they all seem to be roughly the same length. They're on the shorter side. Short narratives, you might even call them like vignettes. Why choose those short pieces rather than a longer form narrative?
I complained about that to a friend. He runs the record store in Williamsport, Nick, Endless Records, and I said, man, all my stories are like 3 pages long. I'd love to write like War and Peace or something. And he's like, nobody's content with what they're good at. You know what I mean? Like, I capture the energy. It lasts as long as it lasts. That's it. That's what I got. And he's like, just be happy that you have that. And so that just seems to work out the best for me. Sometimes if I get dialogue going for whatever reason, they can last longer. But most of them are just like short bursts. And that's really fitting for the subject though too, because like they don't, my patients don't really have attention spans. And so repetition and reinforcement and just things that like last only a few minutes are their lives. And so that's really fitting that the stories are short like that, because anyway, it fits with the subject.
Are there any writers or artists that you feel close to or influenced by?
Well, Beckett is a big one, and I know you said you published a story or an essay on Beckett. That's awesome. We connected over Sam Beckett like years ago, and everybody knows him for Waiting for Godot, but he's also a great novelist. And if you look at the work, he's writing about the body and aging over and over again. His Malloy trilogy is a guy in a nursing home gradually losing his faculties. Ill Seen, Ill Said is a woman struggling by herself as she's going blind and going deaf and just, struggling to get through day by day. What was it, Endgame, right? Is a blind man who's paralyzed, and he's with his even more elderly parents who are like in the play, they're in garbage cans. Which gets back, that was great. Goes back to my original point that these people have value, and in his play, he was showing that, anyway, so he writes about that a lot. Also, J.M. Coetzee, and Waiting for the Barbarians, as I quoted that, there's like a really important passage of caretaking in that. I don't know if you remember that, but he gets what is she, is she blind?
Yeah.
She's blind. He pulls her in off the street and takes her in and just starts taking care of her, just starts bathing her, and it's a little bit unsettling. But so I really connect, and he writes a lot about people, outcasts being on their own, and I don't know, I just connect with that. And the last one I'll say is Oliver Sacks. I just discovered Oliver Sacks. I've been writing this stuff for years, and I'm really glad I just discovered him now, because I didn't realize how much ground I was covering that he already covered. I'm doing it my own way. I still got my own thing, but he was a doctor. He wrote about his patients, and his stories are amazing. That's another one. If you're interested in this kind of stuff, he has some great ones.
Aside from your nursing, you've got a background also as an artist, a journalist, German speaker, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about sort of how those might have come into your work or influenced with you at all. Let's start with your journalism career. You were a newspaper editor and reporter. I know because you were my editor.
Oh yeah.
Do you think that experience influenced your style, the way that you write?
Well, it definitely got me out of trying to write a new War and Peace or something. It made me connect with the urgency of just cutting through, like not trying to write your ideal version of a novel, like just using your voice and just writing what you have in the moment. Because in the newspaper we have to turn around stories that day. Phil knows, right? Phil's been doing police reporting at Sun Gazette for over 40 years. He knows how quickly you have to turn it around, and so that helped me just break that like bubble of like this is the most important thing I'm ever doing. Where you just kind of get into this like workman like writing. So I definitely think the newspaper helped me. It also, though, it hurt my writing for years, because I got so used to just putting out like without thought, like not really without thought, but just putting out stuff that where the writing was more functional. So it took me a while to get away from that a little. But anyway.
There's definitely a turnaround when you're at the newspaper. Writing 2-3 articles a day. I'm curious, how long does it take you to put together one of your stories on average?
Most of the time, not that long, because it's either working or it's not. And if it's not working, I just put it aside. And if the flow's going, I have actually written one story in the morning, submitted it for consideration in the afternoon, and had it accepted by the evening one time. They couldn't believe I said that when I did that at the talk at Fairmount State University, but that was crazy that they just couldn't believe it. But that's how quickly it can work sometimes.
That was a real burst.
Yeah, it just
burst.
happened. It was like crazy.
Wow. Going back to the topic of memory care, you might say our culture is a little bit obsessed with productivity and memory and legacy and acuity. What do you think people with dementia and your experience with them have to teach the rest of us?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think my answer is kind of simple. It's it's very cliched to live in the moment, but and it's not just that though. It's value people that can't do anything for you.
Yeah.
You know, like the relationships with my patients are very rewarding, and that's what goes back to the thing that elderly people with dementia have value, like convincing people that spending time with them is worth their time. And I don't know, I've been a nurse aide for 10 years, and the job has impacted me in a way that I never could have imagined, because I was squeamish. If I saw blood or anything, I would pass out. Liz remembers. Like, her whole family was in healthcare, and here I am, a person who passes out anytime blood's mentioned.
Yeah.
And her dad's talking about like performing heart surgery and blood shooting on the ceiling, and I'm like, I need to go for a walk. So I mean, I've come a long way to even like deal with stuff like this. I guess that that kind of got away from your question there, but
Kind of related to that, what do you hope to do for the reader? Like, what kind of headspace, emotional space do you hope that they're in when they get to the end of one of your stories?
I'm trying to be too aware of not making people too sad, but like you said, just the darkness is there, and just go for it. Because I said to Brian the other day that when I try to write happy stories, they end up sadder than if I just go for it. Because if I go for the darkness, then I'm trying to work against that. You know what I mean? I'm trying to give people something to hold on to, something positive. But if I go high, then I end up going really low, and I surprise myself, and I'm like, holy shit, but you went dark before. I didn't have to worry about that. Like, I was really worried about the styles clashing, but I was like, holy shit, wow, I don't even have to worry about that now. You went dark before I did. Right?
Do you see those?
But wait, I want to ask her, when did you start writing, Danielle?
Believe it or not, I didn't start writing until my senior year of class.
Really?
Yeah, the senior year of high school, pardon me. I don't know what happened. My teacher was just like, write something that interests you. And my mother was recently diagnosed with cancer, and she was dying. And this wasn't my first rodeo with cancer, so I was mourning her before she died. And I was interested in pursuing mortuary school and stuff like that. So I wrote about my experience with death prior to my mother, and I just wanted to dive more into that. And then I found my love for writing, and I don't know, I was just hooked after that.
And you're creating major at LICO, creative writing major, right?
Yes.
Do you hope to, like, what kind of job do you hope to find?
I mean, outside of LICO, I'm hoping to use this bachelor and this degree to go to Pittsburgh Institute of Mortuary Science.
Oh wow, that's cool.
But I don't know. I just want to use my writing to like make people understand death and dying more, and make myself a bit more relatable, despite my crude nature. I just want it to be more palatable and less scary, because death is scary and it's inevitable. And I'm terrified to die, but I want to make peace with it, because, and I want to help others as well, and make people not feel alone, especially when they lose a parent.
That's what I said to Brian the other day. If it's any consolation, I've walked like 1,000 people to death, and most of them generally don't seem too concerned.
Yeah.
They're just like, if you think of it, it's like the lazy man's dream, right? You just lay there and tell other people what to do, and they just like lay there and take it easy, and there's no pressure on you, there's no obligations, there's no responsibilities. I know, I'm just trying to make light of it, but
no, yeah, they seem less sad to die than like I feel like we're the ones that are more sad than they are.
no, exactly. The
yeah.
people around them are often like, they've accepted it in most cases. I mean, from what or they have no idea it's happening, which but it seems like the people around them are often more upset than. But anyway, what do you think? I think that's a good place to end.
Yeah, thank you. So we can turn it over to audience questions. I'm sure you guys have some thoughts or comments or questions for Matt and Danielle. Please go ahead.
Well, Danielle, first of all, are you scared of spiders? You know, are spiders a thing
Yeah,
with you? 'Cause
I was like,
you made them real scary, and I'm not scared of spiders. But,
yeah, I was
yeah.
like, I think it'd be funny to combine my fear of arachnophobia and gun violence together.
Well, that worked in a very, very interesting way. I like that.
Yeah, it's not the kind of story I want to read before going to bed.
No, no.
Something like that, though. How, was that one long sitting, or did that take several days or weeks to put that together?
Well, it came as just like a juvenile thought, and I was just like, I like that. So, what is it? Our class, the semester starts, we have about 2 weeks to make a rough draft, and then we have another week to revise the draft, and then we have another week to workshop it with a class. So it took me about 4 weeks to write it down, revise it, and then workshop it with my class.
Yeah.
And how many long pieces like that have you put together? Have you?
Not many, admittedly, but I am trying to get back into the rhythm of things, and I am experimenting with some other things, so. Yeah.
That's what it is. It's sort of writing is a lab, isn't it? It's what we can experiment with.
Yeah.
But do you have an editing process? I mean, if you had a story, you wrote it and you sent it in and got it accepted, there must not have been a whole lot of time to edit. But it seems like when I sit down to write, there's the editor in my brain won't stop. And unless I can, get the editor out of my head, it's crippled, it's awful. And so I've been told, just don't think about editing, write it and then edit it. Do you do that process, or does it come out when it flows pretty?
Yeah, and it
pretty
flows
well.
so well that sometimes other people have told me, it's like a lot of these stories in particular, that they're very difficult to edit. Because if you change anything, the flow gets interrupted.
Yeah.
So I find them
Yeah.
very difficult to edit. I just recently started writing fiction, and I sent that to an editor. He's a novelist, Alexander Sarando. He's been on Substack a lot. He's just mentioned in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. But he agreed to edit my story, and I was very sensitive about this because I write nonfiction. This is a fiction piece. And he went through and sliced that thing up so much, cutting out all my favorite lines. And then I'm sitting there, like, I know he's in Miami Beach. I'm like, all right, am I going to have to go to Miami Beach and fight this guy? Or what? No, but we wrestled and we went back and forth. And then I realized, like Ralph said, that he read it and he thinks the edited version is better. And I think so, too. Do you edit your stuff a lot? Or?
I'm scared. I don't trust myself, so I like to, use other people to
edit.
Yeah, I go to there's a study workshop and on campus in the library, so I utilize that a lot, or I utilize my my smart friends so they can look at my stuff. And I also just like to pick people's brains, because once you put your story out, it's not yours anymore, it's everyone else's. And I think that's beautiful and scary at the same time, because everybody interprets it differently, and somebody might say something so profound that I didn't even think about, and I'm like, yep, that's what I meant to do.
Yeah. Oh, that was a symbolism I had in mind in that. Yeah.
Ryan, you had a question?
Yeah, you in your stories, it's really evident that there's a tremendous amount of energy, high emotional energy from the people you're describing. This actually might be a pattern for both of them, but there's also vulnerability. So I guess just that juxtaposition between someone who is clearly vulnerable, but also potentially a threat or scary.
Oh, yeah.
It's like that, they're both at once somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that gets to something I wanted to make a point about, but I wasn't sure how to broach it, because a lot of this stuff is very sensitive.
Yeah.
Because the patients are very vulnerable,
Right.
and I never want to feel like I'm exploiting them, and so it's very, but there is it's easy to injure them, but at the same time they're attacking me.
Right.
So like I really have to, it's very, like you have to be adept and skillful. And I like to thank my father and grandfather who both grew up fighting their way through bad neighborhoods in Philly.
Yeah.
You know, at a way when they try to punch me is to protect them while they're trying to hurt me.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of that give and take between vulnerability and violence. And a lot of people don't like that aspect of the job, but I see it as, again, as a challenge, like that original patient that I was trying to help. So.
Yeah, and in your story, it was similar, right? You have this character who's been attacked, who ends up being the villain of the story. It's sort of like that vulnerability, strength thing is interesting. You don't have a simple, bad guy unless it's the spiders, but they're
Yeah.
But they're just being,
they're just being whatever their nature is.
Yeah,
I
right.
suppose, right?
Well, with your story and with your fiction, how are the characters built? Do you think of people in real life? Do you draw from people that you know, or just invent it, or
I mean, personally, I take characters from media and then I'm like, this is mine now. And so, I mean, Bart, I literally made Bart after Bartholomew Simpson from The Simpsons.
Oh yeah.
And then Larry is a character from a video game. They're like different people in my story, but like they are inspired from fiction, other
Oh, you're
people.
such the younger generation.
But like, I don't
Wow.
know. I don't know how to explain it because like they're their own people, and I don't really know them as much as I think I do, despite creating them.
Yeah.
But they're real to me, and they're human. Even Dave, despite his attitude and crude nature, he's a person too.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate what happened to him with the spiders, but
Yeah.
It sure is.
yeah.
Yeah, for my new fiction, it's about professional wrestling, which I'm going from one topic nobody wants to read about, the nursing home, to another.
Yeah, there you go.
Professional wrestling. But I am stealing stuff from different wrestlers.
Yeah.
The one story is based off a real incident where this wrestler took a kendo stick and he cracked the other female wrestler right over the head. And he was supposed to hold back a little, but he was drunk and he just went for it and he gave her a concussion. And so it kind of uses that as a jumping off point for dealing with that. Like even though, and it's a harsh story, but then it's trying to find, he was supposed to be gentle in that moment, like more gentle than he was anyway.
Yeah.
And he crossed the line, and how they deal with it, they confront him in the backstage and all that. And that happens a lot, and that goes with consent, which is like a really, topic these days that is talked about often. And there's this constant wrestling between what is agreed upon in the professional wrestling match, because it's all stage, and what actually happens because it's live on TV. They can decide to do something different in the moment, and they don't all agree on it, and it happens all the time. So anyway, I just think that's a fertile source to to mine for stuff. I don't know if anyone's going to read it, but I think we'll try.
I have a trivial question.
Sure.
So I know you have an interest in typewriters.
Yeah.
Do you, either one of you, what do you write on? I mean, you got handwritten writing, typewriting, and word processing. Do you find any difference in the different mediums of working, or doesn't really matter?
What do you like to write on?
I prefer typing just because my handwriting is abysmal and it upsets me. But I
On a
also
laptop?
I would love to get a typewriter. But yeah, I find typing to be most proficient for me.
I always typed on a laptop, but now with Google Docs on my phone, the versatility of it, I can be anywhere and just pull out the phone and be working on something. And I never would have thought, like 10 years ago, if you'd asked me, I'd be like, no, that's not real writing. You need to be sitting down at a laptop. But
And
now,
lose all your fingers.
just to be anywhere where you get an idea. And I guess you could always do that with a notebook and write it handwritten. Do you write like handwritten?
Mm-hmm.
I knew you would.
Handwritten.
Yeah.
I'm very analog.
Yeah, me too.
It's amazing how what's real can change.
Yeah.
You're like, no, to really write, you have to sit at a lab, and now you're like, no, this is real.
No, I know.
Yeah.
And whatever comes next, like phones will be like, well, they were very serious. They wrote it out on their phone.
Right.
Yeah. We just talk it, yeah.
But Hawks at Lyco always said he used to write out by hand, and that was the only way. I guess it slows you down, to write it by hand.
Yeah. Unless you're a horrible typist.
I can't remember. I have a typewriter, but I don't think I've ever actually used one to write. I guess Kerouac supposedly did it all on one for On the Road, right?
Yeah.
But I guess he had supposedly written versions of that before he typed that all in one shot. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
So it was like a practice run through typing a novel all in one shot, right? Any other questions? Or?
Do the stories ever go in an unexpected direction? You know, where you think you're going here and all of a sudden the characters decide they want to do something else,
What do you think, Jamie?
you know?
I think absolutely. Yeah, that
Yes.
happens all the time because like sometimes the characters take on their own lives and like lead in different directions that I wouldn't think so. But like, you know, they're their own people, and sometimes you just gotta let them do their own thing.
Yeah.
I find myself coming up with ideas and then like halfway through the story I end up abandoning it and then creating something new with what I had. I don't know, I think writing is like a living organism. It's always evolving and changing.
I know that happens when I paint, is what I started out with of what I was going to paint is nothing like what I end up with, because the paint wants to do something else. So
Yeah, with drawing, I found that when you started drawing, you're not quite sure where. I would always, you know, it could go somewhere unexpected if you see something.
yeah.
With writing, I find, you know, I don't know where it's going either. I just start. So yeah, I would say it goes in
Yeah.
unexpected places because, like, I just like it as a flow. You know, when the flow's going, I don't know how it's going to end because the other people have asked me that. Like, do you know how your story's going to end when you start? And I never do. No,
Yeah.
'cause I just go with it and see what happens, and then when it feels right to stop, you know, I stop.
Talk about being live in the moment and the paradox of intention versus
Yeah.
freedom. It's
Yeah.
the whole thing sounds very Buddhist.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Brian.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank
Juliana.
you all
Oh,
for
well,
coming.
thank you
And,
both.
thank you, Matt.
That's
Thank you, Janelle.
great.
Yeah, we hope you guys will stay and hang out and support Otto's, browse. I think they're open till 6. And chat too. Thanks.
Thank you.